The forest always looks peaceful from the outside. Sunbeams cutting through leaves, birds singing, branches swaying in slow motion. But step a little deeper, listen a little closer, and you'll discover something unsettling hiding in plain sight. Because in the quiet parts of the woods, there are creatures that creep without legs, stalk without eyes, and invade without ever making a sound. Vines. Most people think vines are harmless decorations, pretty green ribbons that make trees look magical. But some vines aren't just plants. Some are strategists, some are opportunists, and some are slow-motion invaders with one mission: take over everything they can touch. And the kings of this leafy uprising? Kudzu, the vine that basically tried to eat an entire region, and the strangler fig, the rainforest's silent assassin, polite at first, then suddenly choking the life out of anything unlucky enough to host it. Let's start with kudzu. If plants had personalities, kudzu would be the overexcited roommate who says, "I only need a little space," and then suddenly has their stuff all over the living room, the kitchen, the hallway, your closet, and your soul. Kudzu is the definition of too much. It looks innocent, just a soft, leafy vine. But once it hits the ground, it grows like it's trying to win a contest no one else entered. Brought to the United States in the late 1800s, people originally saw kudzu as a cute decorative plant. It made porches pretty. It looked great in gardens. It even had uses in farming, so much so that the government encouraged people to plant it to help with erosion. They paid people to plant it. Imagine handing someone a check to sow the seeds of their own future problem. That's exactly what happened. And once kudzu settled into the warm, humid climate of the American South, it decided to go full supervillain. Under perfect conditions, kudzu can grow up to a foot a day. That's not a plant. That's a green locomotive. Kudzu climbs telephone poles, fences, houses, abandoned cars. Anything that stands still too long is fair game. Entire forests have vanished under kudzu blankets so thick the trees underneath suffocate from lack of sunlight. Hillsides covered in kudzu look like giant green creatures sleeping under the earth. Beautiful? Yes. Terrifying? Absolutely. But if kudzu is the enthusiastic invader, the strangler fig is the patient mastermind. Unlike most plants, strangler figs don't start in the soil. They start in the sky. Birds eat fig fruits and drop the seeds high in the branches of trees. That little seed sprouts and looks perfectly innocent, like a polite guest. But then it starts sending roots downward. Thin, delicate roots that creep along the trunk like searching fingers. Once those roots reach the ground, the takeover begins. The strangler fig taps into the soil, suddenly gaining real power. And slowly, so slowly the forest doesn't notice, it wraps its roots around the host tree. At first it's gentle, then persistent, then suffocating. The fig tightens like a wooden cage, stealing sunlight, stealing nutrients, and eventually sealing the tree in a slow, leafy chokehold. Over the years, the host tree dies and rots away, leaving behind an eerie, hollow structure made entirely of strangler fig roots. It looks like a twisted wooden skeleton, still standing where the original tree once lived. It's nature's version of a crime scene, except the killer just stays there forever, pretending to be the victim. Kudzu and strangler figs have completely different tactics, but both achieve the same result: domination. Kudzu overwhelms quickly, climbing across the land like it's late for something. The strangler fig overwhelms slowly, plodding patiently like a vine with a long-term plan and excellent time management skills. And caught in the middle of all this drama? Trees. Tall, quiet, peaceful trees that spend decades doing everything right, growing steadily, reaching sunlight, minding their own business. Then along comes a vine with absolutely no respect for boundaries. Kudzu wraps them in a green blanket until they suffocate. Strangler figs wrap them in woody armor until they collapse. Trees don't stand a chance. Vines are nature's overachievers, and they cheat. Humans, of course, tried to fight back, especially against kudzu. Cutting it doesn't work. It just comes back angrier. Burning it? Congratulations, you've removed the hair, but the brain is still alive underneath. Herbicides help, but not for long. Goats can eat it, but goats can't fight 7 million acres of ambition. Kudzu is one of the few plants on Earth that seems to thrive on the phrase, "We tried everything. Nothing worked." Strangler figs, on the other hand, are far harder to blame. Yes, they kill trees, but they also feed entire ecosystems. When their fruits ripen, animals from monkeys to bats to birds depend on them for survival. And after a strangler fig finishes its slow-motion takeover, the hollow structure it leaves becomes home to countless creatures. So it's kind of like the strangler fig says, yes, I ended this tree, but I also turned its house into an apartment complex. You're welcome. But the most fascinating thing about vines isn't how fast they grow, or how they take over, or even how they kill. It's the way they use time. Humans think in minutes, hours, days. Vines think in years, decades, centuries. A year is nothing to a vine. A decade is a warm-up. And that's what makes them so quietly dangerous. They don't need to rush. Kudzu moves quickly, sure, but even it wins because of relentless persistence. The strangler fig? It wins because it simply never gives up. And while we build cities and highways and buildings and feel proud of our permanence, vines see all of it as temporary scaffolding. Leave a structure alone long enough, and kudzu will blanket it. Leave a temple untouched in the tropics long enough, and strangler figs will turn it into part of the forest. Nature doesn't take back the world all at once. It takes it back inch by inch. That's the real horror of vines. They don't roar, they don't strike, they don't sprint, they wait. And in the end, time is always on their side. So the next time you walk through the woods and see something green creeping up a tree, remember, it might not just be growing. It might be planning, it might be claiming. And if you ever see an abandoned shed wrapped in vines or a tree swallowed by greenery, that isn't nature decorating. That's nature reclaiming, quietly, patiently, inevitably. And if vines could speak, they'd probably whisper one simple promise. We'll take it from here.